about environmental justice in Hudson County. So unfortunately, there are some communities, because of their race, their income, and how well they speak English, that experience more environmental burdens like flooding and air and water and soil pollution than others. Those same communities also tend to have less environmental benefits like green space and trees that cool and clean the air and soak up stormwater runoff, and provide benefits and relief from the effects of extreme heat. We know that environmental justice issues comes in many forms, and they span across every region of our state, including in dense and urban places like here in Union City, but also in suburban and rural communities. Environmental injustices occur in inland communities and those along our rivers and bays. But here in Hudson County, the densest county in the state, in a state which is already the densest state in the country, communities are contending with compacted neighborhoods that abut against industry, traffic congestion, and historic brownfield sites that leave communities with eyesores, and old infrastructure that causes flooding and sewer overflows. Further, we know that this density contributes to a lack of adequate greenery and open space. And all of this is being made worse by more frequent and intense rain events as our climate gets warmer. We know that Hudson County has been and will be on the front lines of weather-related events like flooding and sea level rise. And as our climate gets warmer, the most vulnerable of our residents within Hudson County will be hit hard. And this is why it is so important for government to hear directly from those of you who are most impacted by these experiences, so we can be informed of your day-to-day lives and use that feedback to color the work that we do every day. So Hudson County is the fourth stop on our environmental justice tour this year. We've been really privileged to visit 7 counties during our tour last year, and we have one more additional stop before we wrap up the year. So stay tuned for that announcement. So before we go any further, I do want to give a special thanks to the Jose Marti STEM Academy for hosting us in this space here in Union City. Thank you. I also want to acknowledge if we have any elected or appointed officials in the room. If you come up and say a question or make a remark, we invite you to acknowledge yourself and say your city and your position at that time. Also, those of you elected and appointed officials, please feel free to say and introduce yourself online in the chat. So our agenda for today is very simple. In a moment, I'm going to pass over the floor to you all to come to the mic, which is to my right and to your left in person, to say your question or your comment. I will also invite folks online to unmute themselves and address the room as well. But first, I want to turn it over to my colleagues to say a few opening remarks, and then we'll get into the discussion. So first, Commissioner Latourette.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, rather. Thank you for making time in your schedules to be with us, whether you're joining us here in the room or if you are one of the many people that I noticed online when I took a peek behind the Zoom screen. We are really grateful that the public that we are here to serve are engaged in this work of improving our public health and the environment that we share. And the truth is that as officials within the government and environmental professionals who are working hard to ensure clean water and clean air and reduced flooding and ample green space, as hard as we work to ensure that service for the public, we can't do that work well without engaging directly with the people that we serve about their lived experience of their environment. And so that is why we come together in spaces like this, all across the state and in other forums as well, to make sure that we are informed by that on the ground experience of your communities so that we can work to improve them with you. And that is our whole goal. We'll do our very best to answer your questions. We won't pretend that we have all the answers because no one does. But depending on, or regardless of what question you raise, we will work hard to get you a responsive answer if it's not something that we are immediately tooled with a response here this evening. We've done a lot of work throughout Hudson County, both from the perspective of the DEP and from the perspective of our federal partners at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. So I'm pleased to turn it over to our partner, Regional Administrator Lisa Garcia.
Great. Thank you so much, Commissioner Lateret. It is great to be here. I was told to give Spanish instructions. Are we ready to go on that? Yeah. Okay. So, voy a tomar un momentito para explicar que si hablan español, tenemos traductores aquí en el salón. Pueden ir atrás y te dan el equipaje o el monitor para traducir el inglés a español y si están en el internet, en el Zoom call, también tenemos una selección para oír en español y para traducir en español. Debajo vas a ver un globo. Tienes que hacer el clic en el globo y ahí tienes una oportunidad de elegir español o inglés. Entonces, si puedes elegir español y después vas a oír la interpretación de lo que estamos diciendo hoy. Okay, bien. Hi, everyone. Sorry about that. So now back to English. Lisa Garcia, Regional Administrator for EPA Region 2. It's really great to be here in Hudson County. As was mentioned, EPA has been joining the New Jersey DEP on these tours. You know, EPA has a role in protecting public health and the environment. New Jersey DEP has a role in protecting public health and the environment. And so it's really great that we can come out together and, as the commissioner said, listen here, but also be able to figure out how to respond to the concerns and questions that people have. So EPA is just really grateful to be able to do this together. And we also have huge priorities, as the commissioner was mentioning, and also Candace, that we all have this priority around environmental justice, getting it right, coming to the right solutions. So it's really important that we're here in community to be able to listen and to figure out how to work together on all these issues. So thank you again for having me. I'm here with Olivia Glenn, who's the Chief of Staff for EPA. And so if folks have any questions, we're here afterwards also, but really looking forward to the dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the floor is now yours. I'm going to ask you to form a line if you're physically able at the mic. To my right, your left. And just raise your hand if you're unable to stand up and make your way to the mic. We'll bring it around to you. And so, no, behind you. Oh. So, please share anything that's on your mind, your question, comments, or concern. And all of you online, we are monitoring you as well. So my team is in the back putting your questions and comments in the chat for me. So in due time, I will call on you. You can either unmute yourself and ask your question or say your comment orally, or just put it in the chat and we can read it out loud for you. One important kind of housekeeping note that I do want to say is that this session is covering environmental justice in Hudson County. So I ask that you please have your comment or your question be pertaining to the issues of environmental justice in Hudson County. And we do want to make space for the residents of the overburdened communities in Hudson County to speak first. And so those overburdened communities are Bayonne, East Newark, Gutenberg, Harrison, Hoboken, Jersey City, Kearney, North Bergen, Secaucus, Union City, Weehawken, and West New York. So if you are not from one of those towns, we just ask you to yield the floor to residents of overburdened communities in Hudson County first. And if there's time remaining, we'll get to your questions or comments. If we do not get to everyone's questions or comments tonight, this is not your last opportunity to be speaking with DEP and the EPA. We hope that this is just the first of a burgeoning relationship with all of you all. So you can see my team in the back. And, put your information in the chat and we will get back to you in due time. So with all those disclaimers and remarks, we'll pass it over to the first person at the mic.
Hello, good evening.
Hi.
Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and speak with the members of the community. My name is Stephanie Silva. I work with Team Wilderness. Our mission is to increase access to empowering outdoor experiences within urban youth in Hudson County. Something that, it challenges us in the work that we do is getting kids out to the state parks. I know that this is for Hudson County, but these are Hudson County youth that are trying to enjoy the wilderness. And we've had to purchase a van to transport our kids because taking buses was inaccessible in some of the parks because of the parking and things like that. One of our experiences that is one of the most transformative experiences for kids is rappelling off the side of a mountain. And we love to do these experiences with the kids, and we would do it even more so if the permitting process for rock climbing and things like that was more accessible to large groups. I think things kind of changed after COVID, how permits are issued to individuals or to groups, and that has caused like a disruption in our programming. Specifically in Alamuchi State Park. So if something could be done about that.
Can you say that the name of that park again, Stephanie?
In Alamuchi. And I believe, Commissioner, you've joined us on one of our hikes and we'd
Sure
love
did.
to have you again.
Would love to.
Yes. And I think I'll just leave it at that, and just want to say that, all the things that you all said about the environmental injustices that are present right now. They also affect not just, our physical well-being, but our mental health, and programs like Team Wilderness, they really help the youth in this community. I wish this existed when I was a child here. So your support means so much to us.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. But more importantly, thank you for what you are doing as part of Team Wilderness for the youth of this community and across the county and beyond. I'm not sure if we were on that hike together. Okay, I think I might have remembered. One of the things that I shared with the group when we were out is that I didn't discover the outdoors until I was in my teens, because I grew up in an overburdened community and nature wasn't as accessible as it should be. And that you are all creating those avenues is admirable. It is necessary. And we want to be as helpful as we possibly can. New Jersey is one of the few states with a big umbrella coordinated approach to environmental governance, which means that all of our outdoors are part of the Department of Environmental Protection. Like as though we were the Department of the Interior. And one of the ways that we're trying to further that promise of environmental justice is by looking not just within issues of environmental quality, clean air, clean water, but what are some barriers, bureaucratic or otherwise, that might make it difficult to access nature. And the one that you point out is important. So Candace and I will have a conversation about those. I imagine that there's special use permit issues and how we can better facilitate that for Team Wilderness and other groups. And I hope that your group is aware of what we're doing at Liberty State Park tomorrow. So if you don't mind, I'll just take this one moment to plug that those two events. We've been working incredibly hard with stakeholders across the spectrum to build a future for Liberty State Park that is more inclusive, that speaks to and for everyone. And we'll break ground on the cleanup of the contaminated areas of Liberty State Park tomorrow, because it is real and it's now and it's happening. So I hope that you and your group will stay tuned to that design process as it moves forward so that we can make sure we're hearing you and achieving in that space a degree of outdoor equity that Team Wilderness has been sowing in its work. I thank you again, Stephanie, truly.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add, if we could get your contact information. Even though we don't deal with permits, we are coming out with a few different grants for groups that work on like environmental education, environmental justice, and open space, getting outdoors and supporting youth is going to be a really important part of that. Thank you so much. And thanks for all your work, as the commissioner said. Hi.
Hello. Are we going to be alternating between Zoom calls, or are we going to do all in person first and then?
We'll probably take maybe 2 or 3 in person, 2 or 3 online.
Okay.
Yep, but go ahead.
So hello, my name is Stephanie Martinez, she, they, and I live in North Bergen. I live in downtown North Bergen, so right where Jersey City and Union City, North Bergen meet. And I am with the with NB Earth Talks and also Bike North Bergen, Hudson County Complete Streets, and Union City Community Garden. What I do now, I am a researcher at NJIT. I study endocrine disrupting chemicals. So in the name, it's chemicals that disrupt our endocrine system. So endocrine system affecting our hormones. Our hormones are everything. And what really got me interested was all the chemicals that we hear about: lead, plastic, air pollution, and all the chemicals that you can think of, hear of in the news, and how it is affecting us. I try to correlate that with Black and Brown communities, low income communities, and how these vulnerable communities are being exposed to these chemicals more frequently. And I have a little outline of some things that popped in my head that I think about almost daily as a young activist in this field. I'm 23, and I get pretty anxious and scared about, our future. And it sucks when there's a lot of gaps between the community and government. So I really appreciate this community meeting and the dialogue with Spanish speaking people as well. One recommendation, maybe having an in-person interpreter, because some people I know don't even have a computer, and let alone how to use one. So it'd be, I'd like to make that recommendation of having someone interpret in person. And also because like when I go around talking to people, I talk to them about these problems, issues going on, and a lot of the times they are like surprised. People are surprised. They're not like, it's not that they don't know, it's just they're not being having that dialogue with the government, because you have that 9 to 5, you have children to pick up, and you have to make dinner and stuff, and it's like they're not being informed about all this. So it's really important to have those communities in mind. But yeah, one of the main things I had was air pollution. There's a research study saying that there's no safe level of air pollution for brain health. A new research suggests long-term exposure to PM 2.5 mass, particularly from traffic and fossil fuels, is significantly associated with elevated dementia, Alzheimer's disease, and other neurological health issues. This is from the New York University School of Medicine in New York. But
yeah, as we all know, we've seen so many cars, so much car congestion, and a lot of people maybe, you know, driving, and it's like so much misery and like, and you breathe in that air, and it makes you think like, what solutions are there? We should have better transportation systems. We should have bike lane infrastructure for bikes, scooters, and people on wheelchairs. And also another, as mentioned in this research, in this paper, the fossil fuels, there's fossil fuel projects, such as the NJ Turnpike expansion. Like, this is a lot of money, $30 billion that are going into an expansion that's not going to benefit the 90% of people in New Jersey that commute to New York. Like, less than 10% are the ones that are taking cars. Who is this benefiting? And expanding that turnpike is just going to be the same issue, even worse. Is going to have more car congestion, more pollution into Jersey City. And as well as the other fossil fuel project, the NJ Transit gas power plant, there's nothing green about the health effects that these toxic chemicals will emit in our air, in our water, in our soil. And all the other 7 fossil fuel projects, they're like, pollution has no barriers. It doesn't matter where we like put these plants. It's pollution has no barriers. It's going to come over to our side. It's going to come over to the people in government. It's going to come to everyone. A second issue I wanted to bring up and ask about is how we can better have community gardens and more green spaces in Jersey City, North Bergen, Guttenberg, West New York. Union City is on the NJEDA's proposed food desert community list. And food deserts meaning there's no access to fresh foods. We see a lot of McDonald's and Popeyes and all these other fast food restaurants and no options for fresh foods. So we need community gardens and native gardens to have that green space. Another issue is flooding. Like, what are we doing about the flooding? I don't want to take too much time, but an example is just Hoboken, parts of Tunnelly Avenue and parts of Braddock Park, where there is not much tree vegetation in the areas that are getting flooded. So definitely investigating on how to mitigate flooding using green spaces, using runoff roofs and all other types of things. And lastly, the lack of green spaces. I mentioned I live in North Bergen. I don't live in the side where there's a big park by me. I live where I have to walk to another town to go to a big green park. I seen a constant pattern of the destruction of trees and just putting pavement over a park. That's not a park. A park is grass, is trees, is hearing all these animals and having a space to just, you know, sit down and relax from all the chaos that's happening. Lastly, the North Bergen pre-K trailers. We need our local government to put an end to the educational injustice that has been happening ever since the long-range facilities plan was proposed in 2018. It demonstrated that all preschoolers would fit into existing elementary schools, and North Bergen voters approved a $65 million plan to finance an alternative adequate school facility. Like these schools, these trailers were moldy when we saw these trailers. They were falling apart. I don't feel like kids should be in those trailers for how many years? It's been over 10 years, 20 years. After 22 years, how has no one found an adequate location for them? And there's many locations that the town has to have a proper school infrastructure. We can't just be taking our parks and making them into preschooler, pre-K trailers and making them into like these buildings. It's green spaces. Like imagine if we were go to New York and Central Park decided, okay, yeah, we're going to put pre-K trailers in here. It's like, that's not fair. That's not fair for the kids. That's not fair for the parents that might not even have a way to get to the schools. It's not fair for people who deserve the green space. So those are some of the issues that come up in my local area. And I would love to work with you. Our organizations would love to work with you in advocating for these type of meetings as well, getting the word out, anything to help.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing all of that. I think your name is Stephanie also? Okay, we had two Stephanies in a row and I couldn't figure out if we wrote it down wrong. So thank you for saying what I can tell by the room's reaction was a number of things that are on a lot of folks' minds. And I'm sure, through others' questions in our discussion tonight, we will hit on, so I won't try to tackle it now, each of those things in response, but there's one thing that you said that I want to respond to very directly. And it was, and I think I wrote it down word for word because it hit me in the heart. You said that you're 23 and you're anxious and you're scared about the future. I think it's very important for folks like us in government to hear you and your colleagues and your peers share that sentiment with us, because as government, it's on us to hold that and to carry that into our work and to make that future better for you. And as challenging as the dozen or so things that you listed out, as challenging as those things are, I want you to know, Stephanie, that there is hope, that there are lots of forms of hope about the improvement of public health and our environment. In our state and in the federal government, there are thousands upon thousands of people working their hearts out every day to better protect our air and our water and our ability to thrive. And that work isn't always linear. It happens in fits and starts. And sometimes there's great big leaps, like the environmental justice law that passed in New Jersey a couple of years ago, and that is beginning to be implemented right now for new projects, including new fossil fuel facilities. And progress takes time, but your advocacy, it matters, it motivates, and it empowers. So thank you for sharing that. And Lisa, I don't know if you have something you'd like to share.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have some activity online. I'm going to take a question from online and then we'll go to you next in person. So this is from Eleanor Gruber. And she's saying that she's a co-chair for the League of Women Voters in New Jersey and their Natural Resources Committee. And so for the past 6 years, we have written to the present and past DEP commissioners, Green Acres, and even the acting chair of the Ed Department about the 23-year diversion of Green Acres property in North Bergen, where the 17 temporary preschool classroom units have been sited. The town has continually asked and has been granted extensions to find a permanent site, but there is no reason why there is no permanent site. The temporary classroom units should not still be in the park. They are not in good condition. When will the DEP answer our concerns? So that's from Eleanor, and I know that others share this sentiment and have questions, so maybe we can address the bulk of it now.
Yeah, sure. So Stephanie too raised this point. So I do understand this issue, not in incredible detail, but I do know that there is a pending application within the Department of Environmental Protection in our Green Acres program for a diversion for that property. And for those who may not know what a Green Acres diversion is, I'll explain it briefly and try not to mess it up. So forgive me if I do. Some of you may know better. Some of you may know it better than I. So the Green Acres program is roughly 60 years old. It's older than DEP itself. And it's a program whereby we invest considerable amounts of public money in the acquisition and improvement of green spaces all around the state. In fact, we're about to open a new Green Acres funding round. Applications for parks acquisition and parks development funding will open by the end of this month. And we do that on a yearly, sometimes bi-yearly basis. And then once a local government or a nonprofit organization secures funding from the DEP to acquire to improve green space, that green space has to be conserved forever. And if there comes to be an intent to use green space in a different way, that creates what's called a diversion, meaning that the property is being diverted from its use as green space to some other purpose. And that can only be done by going through a very particularized process whereby there's public engagement and public comment. And then ultimately, there needs to be a decision as to whether a diversion is necessary. And if it's necessary, if there is enough what we call compensation or mitigation, meaning that other green space is preserved, right? The idea that we can't lose green space, that there needs to be balance. And so as an application for a diversion goes through that process, ultimately, it goes to two people it goes to two places for a final decision, to me and to a board of legislators or appointees in what is called the State House Commission. My understanding is that this application for the Braddock Park diversion is still pending, and that it should be coming to a point of decision in the next few months. I can't, because I don't have all the details about it, because I'm the one who effectively serves as the judge. I don't know the details of it, and I shouldn't know. So I can't respond to particular issues about it, although I welcome anyone who wants to speak to it, to raise their concerns so that it can be in this very recording. Because it's important that we hear you, I hear you. And then on the route to that final decision, there would have to be another public hearing in that process, at which time folks could voice their concerns as well. So I do think it will draw to a close in the next several months. But that is all I know and all I'm supposed to know at this point. So hopefully that is helpful to the individual who from the was it the Women's Concert League of Women's Conservation Voters, or the League of Women Voters, was it?
League of Women Voters.
So I hope that is helpful to that individual and to Eleanor and Stephanie in response to your question as well.
Please.
Are we back to the live people?
Back to you.
Are we back to the live people?
Yes, back to you.
Yes, sir.
My name's Robert Moss. I do live in Essex County. I grew up in Hudson County, and it's about Braddock Park, and a lot has already been said. But the commissioner here is talking about a diversion process as if there's a new thing. This is at least the second diversion application they've submitted. They have lied in the past. They have acted in bad faith. They have offered replacement land that was already public parkland in direct contradiction to the regulations. Now, if you think about it, that wouldn't make any sense. Take away parkland and replace it with other existing parkland. They lied about what they were going to do with that. I don't have all this in my head. The referendum and having the new school and putting the pre-Ks there. They lied about that. I do want to shout out to Mr. Robert Walden. He discovered this back in 2010, 13 years ago, and that's not when it started. It started 23 years ago. DEP did not get out, Office of Transactions in Public Land Management, formerly Green Acres, did not get out according to the regulations every 3 years. But even since they gave a notice to North Bergen, it's still 13 years. So we've been through at least one diversion. We've been through stalling. We've been through a broken promise about a new school, a new facility. The regulations are clear. Increased cost alone is not an excuse for not taking an alternative course of action. The fact that it's not the most easy, this isn't the exact wordings, but the fact that it's not the most easy course of action, an alternative is not quite as what you want, is not a reason to not do it. The diversion is a last resort. That's an exact quote from the regulations. And only when, again, exact quote, there's no other reasonable or feasible alternative. And then they go in like higher cost doesn't make it unreasonable. So with 13 years behind us, it does not seem that this will be resolved anytime soon. And sorry, I just lost my train of
That's okay. Take your time.
It does
Okay.
not seem this to be resolved anytime soon. And oh, yes, the Commissioner of DEP, as I recall, I meant to check it today, and the Commissioner of DEP has legal authority to take North Bergen and Hudson County to court and ask the court to give them a date certain when the trailers will be out, no matter where they go, no matter what the cost. And that has not been done. The League of Women Voters, I think, was a party to a lawsuit against this, which was unsuccessful, because anybody can ask me for details and I'll speak ill of the attorneys. Their attorney made a mistake. And let me just mention, he made the same mistake I, as not an attorney, made the first time I went against DEP, your predecessor, Shin. Look up the case law, Moss versus Shin. I didn't know what I was doing, but this attorney that took DEP to court over Braddock Park made the same mistake I did. So that was not a very good attorney. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I appreciate those. Commissioner Shin was many commissioners ago, so I do get the message that this is, it was many commissioners ago. And so I get the message that this has been pending in some way, shape, or form for a long time. Oh, that was you on a different topic. I see. I see. Okay. My understanding is that the application that is presently being going through the process was made in 2021. And so I, as I said before, I do think that it will take its course in the next several months. So for those who signed up, if you put in your information on our sign-in sheet, we will surely get back to you as that comes before me in particular. And I thank you.
We're going to go to Mark Bloomberg. I see you have your hand up online. Please feel free to unmute yourself.
Yes, good evening. Thank you so much. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, yes. My name is Mark Bloomberg. I am a 20-year resident of West New York and have lived in Hudson County since 1992. I'm also here to speak about Braddock Park, but at the same time, there's a certain amount of insanity in the fact that we're so focused on something that is happening in Braddock Park when others are mentioning much larger issues like pollution from the turnpike and its extension, as well as fossil fuel plants. On those larger pictures where we should be focused, New Jersey has been putting through legislation that the state has been ignoring, and Governor Murphy's plans for turning the state green are going ignored as well. With that being said, I'm going to speak a little bit more about Braddock Park because it being so close to us and it being such a special spot. You know, I don't think anybody in this room would argue the fact about access to green spaces is an environmental justice issue, particularly in a county as crowded as we are. The health benefits by cleaning the air of pollutants that, plants and nature does, as well as space for exercise and just a mental space to decompress. Braddock Park is one of Hudson County's largest green spaces, and it is grossly mismanaged by the park, by the management of the park, as evidenced by its lack of regard for mature trees and by limiting access to areas of the park. Park management in the past has shown no qualms about cutting down fully mature trees, as they have done on numerous occasions. They've cut extensive trees as a strategy to remove homeless populations at least twice in the last few years. And they've recently just raised an entire section of trees from the bird sanctuary on the east side of JFK Boulevard East. So we get rid of mature trees. That location that I'm talking about on the east side of Braddock Park, opposite JFK Boulevard East, that's a slope that goes down to Edgewater. You talk about minimizing flooding, that's a major issue there. As we've talked about with the school, though, Braddock Park management and the DEP have allowed for a public ball field to be removed and illegally replaced with temporary, in quotes, temporary trailers that have housed a preschool for over 20 years. As you may not be aware, just last month, construction began on a new ball field 500 feet away from where the original one was located, taking away passive park space from the larger public. So not only do we have to deal with the school for 20 some odd years, taking away a ball field that people can use, but now they're building another one. And just, everywhere you look in this park, they are creating less and less space. There's another area where they put in monuments to like the last 6 or 7 presidents of the United States because too many people were playing soccer there and ruining the grass. The DEP needs to act decisively in removing the school from the park, make sure the space is accessible to all county residents. I thank you for your time. I greatly appreciate your comments. I'm sure you have my contact information through the Zoom details. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mark. Please, yes.
We're just actually looking up the location, so. Thanks.
I can go.
Yes, go for it.
Excuse me. Hi, my name is Liz Ndoy. I am a longtime resident of Hoboken. I'm a member of Don't Gas the Meadowlands, Food and Water Watch, as well as an elected member of the Hoboken Democratic Committee. I've been to several of these EJ community meetings, but now I am attending one on my home turf. It's very personal and somewhat emotional moment for me to be addressing these local issues with you, Mr. LaTourette, and to the entire DEP, because now I'm talking about proposed environmental hazards that will affect me, my family and loved ones, my neighbors, my colleagues, my coworkers, and friends. And I'm here tonight to speak out strongly against all 6 proposed New Jersey fossil fuel projects that Governor Murphy has done nothing to stop, but most especially the 3 that are threatening Hudson County and the residents herein. Each, I believe, is a horrendous proposal and ill-conceived idea for specific reasons. but all will adversely affect the quality of air we breathe here in Hoboken, Jersey City, Bayonne, Secaucus, Kearney, North Bergen, Union City, and all the surrounding cities in Hudson County. I'm speaking about the Turnpike Expansion Project, the New Jersey Transit Power Plant, and the PVSC Power Plant, which is located in Essex County, but just across the river from us. Each one of these projects will increase the methane and particulate matter in our air tenfold. And each one of these projects will most severely affect environmental justice communities yet again. Black and brown communities that have been continually dumped on for decades. I believe that none of these projects are necessary and each have clean energy solutions and alternatives if they must be built. The governor must choose to stop these projects from moving forward. He must stop endangering the health, well-being, and lives of thousands of his fellow New Jerseyans by showing the moral courage and leadership to opt for clean solutions. Instead of deadly carbon-based unnecessary projects that risks the lives of pregnant women, unborn fetus, the elderly, the immune compromised, asthmatic, and the cancer-ridden among us, he must move to hybrid microgrid power sources, solar and battery storage systems, and improved solar-powered public transportation rather than highway expansion. The governor must stop the use of fossil fuels now. There is no time for transition any longer. Climate change is upon us. We know it is real. We've all experienced it. I implore Governor Murphy to stop the New Jersey Transit Power Plant, the Turnpike expansion, and the PVSC Power Plant. Save the people of Hudson County now. And Stephanie was a tough act to follow. She's 23 and anxious. I am a 75-year-old mother who will never be a grandmother because my daughter-in-law refuses to have grandchildren because we are living in the time of climate crisis. So I am being robbed of the natural joy of most women on this planet, or a lot of women on this planet, I should say. Not all women want to have grandchildren, but I really want a grandchild, and it will never be, my wish will never be fulfilled. So I implore Governor Murphy and Mr. LaTourette, you have his ear. Stop these horrible carbon-based, dirty fossil fuel projects now. Thank you.
Liz, thank you. It is good to see you again, and I appreciate your sharing.
We've been fighting these projects for too long, and we stopped it in Woodbridge. We can do it here.
For her.
We must win.
Liz, thank you for sharing that. I will share your messages with my boss. And I appreciate your advocacy. I will share that. And in the spirit of friendship, I'll also offer a suggestion, because as important as it is for for all of those who have an environmental or related issue to share with us here. It is important that other levers of government also hear from you. Government is a complicated thing. I'm not telling folks here anything they don't already know. And it is important to understand in all of our advocacy, just as much as it is important for me to understand in performing my job, where the decisional forces of any particular choice, whether it's about a power plant or a park or a school or a diversion, lie. We come to engage with all of you to learn your concerns so that we can figure out how to bring your perspective into the work that we do. That doesn't necessarily mean we get veto power over the decisions of others. So that's why it's very important that those you mentioned hear from you as well. You know, whether that is the Turnpike Authority, which has its own board of decision makers that make decisions, or New Jersey Transit, which similarly has a board that makes decisions independent of the governor, and PVSC, for example, which isn't a state government entity at all, but a local government one. Bring your concerns there too, as I know that you do. I know that you do. But especially for those who this may be a first engagement in this work to understand. And then also engage with our Environmental Protection Agency, because in many ways, Lisa Garcia is my other boss. There's not a permit relative to air quality that the DEP can approve without the Environmental Protection Agency giving it a look. So that's just my points of advice. And I thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, we're gonna go to Muriel Walland online. I see you have your hand up, so feel free to unmute yourself.
Thank you very much for calling on me. I just wanted to address a couple of issues. Again, you know, the Braddock Park issue, and from the perspective of, besides defying credulity that something illegal could go on for 23 years, which I don't even know how that could possibly happen. Let's talk about what the impact of these moldy school trailers will do to these very small children. And when they become 30, 40, 50 years old, how they might, I mean, if we have to talk in terms of financial penalties, you know, if that's the only thing that's going to matter here, you know, do we think that they're going to be healthy after, you know, spending time in these god-awful trailers that have horrible air quality, talking about air quality in general? I mean, so if you can't do it, I mean, I don't understand how a decision could be made and then nothing happens. It's not enforced. Where is the enforcement here of the diversion process of putting up land that isn't even usable as a park, as a diversion? I don't get it. So I'm just another resident who is dumbfounded by the lack of activity to correct this transgression, really. The other thing I would like to say is that on the other issue is the issue of outdoor equity for children. You know, my son was the executive director in California of a nonprofit called Bay Area Wilderness Training. And what they did was take youth on camping trips for, you know, up to a week. And I can attest to the fact from the testimonials of the children that were able to participate from the Oakland and Bay Area, how important being able to get outdoors and experience nature is. And I would say to that, I guess it was the first Stephanie, that there are many ways to get corporate sponsors who helped the Bay Area wilderness training effort, which was a 501, organization, but REI, Columbia, all of these camping places, places that have these materials donate, materials and equipment, tents, cross-country skis, you name it, whatever season it was, they were able to have a warehouse where they were able to take advantage of this kind of equipment. So I just would say, as you try to further outdoor equity for children who might not necessarily have it at their fingertips, that you can look on their website, Bay Area Wilderness Training, and see the kinds of opportunities that can be created in addition to what you're already doing, which I applaud. Thank you.
Thank you, Muriel. And I see that Lillian Martinez is next online. We'll go to you. And
I think you may still
You're
be
on
on
mute.
mute.
Unmute.
you're still on. Can my team unmute her?
Unmute.
We can hear you. There we
Oh,
go.
now we hear you.
Okay, okay, good. Oh, well, first of all, I'm really happy to see the panel, to hear our voice, because for so long we have felt that our voice has gone unheard. And I'm calling about Braddock Park. For 23 years, there are people that died 5 years ago that still haven't seen a resolution to this problem. And we're still here fighting for it. And I want to thank the panel, but also the two Stephanies, that I'm grateful at their age that they're getting involved. And I was their age and lived in downtown North Bergen and drove my bike to Hudson County Park, which is now in front of my window. And we have felt unheard because, as the gentleman Mark said, they've been felling the trees, the old trees. And I'm 63 and I'm scared and anxious about the future, because what I see every day of the destruction of our very small park. I know everybody thinks it's a big park, but all you need to do is go onto Google Maps, Google Earth, and see the amount of open space that there is in Hudson County. It's, to me, the fact that those trailer parks are there, they might be rotting and moldy. They shouldn't be there at all. This is our only park in this area, which also services Bergen County, by the way, because it's Bergen County on the northern part. Everybody uses it. It's unfathomable to me as well that they've been allowed to be there for so long, and in the fenced off in the middle of the park. You don't need to look any further than Green Acres mission statement. And it's been disillusioning that our community has had to fight for this. Where's our justice? This is our environmental justice. Our environmental justice that the young children and the young kids that bike from West New York or Weehawken, it's a county park for North Bergen to put in their trailers in a piece of the land that was leased to them, but at a time when they weren't gated, they weren't fenced in. You had access. I'm old enough to remember access. You have in your possession scores of letters, thousands of signatures and petitions. The people here do not want those parks. They want a better managed park. They want respect for the old trees. They want a place they can sit in peace and walk in peace. They want action. We don't want it's pending and it's going to be resolved. It needs to be resolved in the favor of the people. This diversion, which is a legislative, I am now not naive anymore. I was naive to think, oh, this will be all right. I'm not naive anymore. This legislative diversion, when I pushed the lever to fund Green Acres, I didn't push it so that the legislator could say, oh, so-and-so needs a parking lot in the park. Let's pave all this area so that it can't be used. Let's feld all the grounds because there might be homeless people. That is not why New Jerseyans signed up for Green Acres to fund it. It is bureaucratic. You're looking for the judge, Mr. Latorette. You're looking for ways to cut this bureaucratic obstacles. Here is a key issue with a bureaucratic obstacle to the majority of the people, to the majority of the people whose only green space is a spit in New Jersey's land in Hudson County. The final decision is the State House Commission. Why do we feel that this is political? Why is it not the right thing and the wrong thing to do? And I guess that's how I feel. There must be a few letters from me in the closet, that in your archives, along with many people which way maybe I sent 5 years ago and 10 years ago, and people before me sent it 15 and 20 years ago. We're tired. We're not tired. We're going to keep fighting, but why do we have to?
Liz, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Oh, was that Lillian? Lillian, that wasn't Liz. Okay. Lily, thank you very much for sharing all of that. And you have my promise that I will very forcefully evaluate when this comes to me, and it will, that I will very forcefully evaluate what you're saying has been submitted, and I will do that.
Okay.
We'll go to the next person in the room.
All right, hi. My name is Sussy and I am a longtime North Bergen resident. And my pronouns are she, they, he, and I come from the organizations. I help to run NB Earth Talks, which is North Bergen Earth Talks, the Union City Community Garden Coalition, which we just built the first Union City Community Garden ever this year, which was super exciting. Thank you, thank you. Lots of volunteer effort. It was very exciting and very important. I'm also part of the Wild Ones NJ Gateway, which is a native plant organization, a national nonprofit, but our chapter is the NJ Gateway. And I've worked with Food and Water Action New Jersey to promote community energy aggregation. And so today, I'm here on behalf of Hudson County, which is, I'm very grateful to work with our community. We are such a diverse and community-based space in this area. And I'm so grateful for the people in this room that I've worked with, and for the, having this meeting today to be able to speak with you as well. But part of that comes along with a lot of energy and time and volunteer effort that makes these projects happen. So I want to, come with the perspective that what we're all talking about tonight comes from us as people who care deeply and passionately to dedicate our free time and energy into making this happen. And often that ends up, putting a lot of pressure on us to make sure it does happen. And so we are grateful to have you guys listening and being part of that change. So I have this nice list, which I could give to you now, or I could just give it to you after, which is kind of a comprehensive list. I'm not going to go over every single thing on the list, but I'm going to try to hit some of the ones that I feel are really important to me. So being a North Bergen resident, part of, what I do is go into, the green team meetings or the commissioners meetings to come and speak on the important issues that we would like to work with our townships on. And I really want to emphasize healthy and communication and public engagement with our officials. Mayor Sacco, which is our favorite mayor, he's often told me weird things. And I think it's just really important that we make sure that our officials, weird things, meaning like one time he told me he wanted me to fall, which is extremely inappropriate since I am a resident of North Bergen. You shouldn't say that to anybody, especially not somebody who's your resident. So things like that, I think extremely, extremely important to have healthy communication with our officials as well as them to their residents, because it makes me extremely uncomfortable as somebody who is a dedicated activist to come into these meetings and be berated and belittled. So I am appreciative of the way that you guys respond. So thank you for making a very comfortable meeting space for us to speak. But healthy communication also includes, multilingual options, such as what Stephanie was recommending. Having someone interpreting in person is extremely important. As well as advance notice for meetings, which you guys have done. So thank you for doing that. And genuinely actively listening in public hearings and considering our input and working with local organizations, which I appreciate you.
Sasi, I just wanted to point out that we do have in-person interpretation
But
right here.
I said it
Yeah.
said it in Spanish, so
Yeah.
you didn't probably
Yes.
understand what I said. But
Yeah, I mean, like,
that's what we were saying.
Yeah, that's awesome. I guess the people in this room don't have it though, right? But if they had it on their,
And online as well.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's
We have
perfect.
laptops set up in the back where people can put on headphones
Yeah,
and listen.
That's
So,
awesome, which I appreciate you guys doing, but obviously it's more than just, the NJDEP. It's all of our.
Lead by example, my friend.
Exactly,
Lead by
exactly.
example.
And in implementing those ideas into action. So, part of when it comes to our political involvement, we noticed the air quality was extremely bad for a couple of days because of the Canadian wildfires. That will continue happening over the years. No matter if we, put a slow down to climate change, it will continue happening. And children were still in school, and in North Bergen High School, there is no proper air conditioning and ventilation. We only have one air conditioner and like the cafeteria, and I think another one in the gym, and that's it. And that school is overpacked with about 3,000 students. And to have that air quality in that school with all those people, it's an extremely dangerous environment. And I think more so to what I'm explaining this for is that we need extreme weather planning, whether that be for the wildfire and the smoke in the air and these, like school closures and, making sure that proper information is given to people when these things happen and how to protect themselves in these dangerous situations.
Since you're going through your list, I hope you don't mind my interrupting you and just
Go ahead.
so that way I don't write down everything and have to respond after.
Yeah, that's fine.
There is a wonderful member of our DEP family here, Nathalie Augusto Filione, who is the Deputy Chief Resilience Officer for the state of New Jersey. And I would suggest that you sync up with her to talk about our extreme heat action plan that we're developing, and a new resource that we recently put out called the Heat Hub NJ,
Nice.
which is a toolkit to help guide folks toward resources in these circumstances. So she's a great resource and I'd suggest you connect.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's really important, especially when those things are actively happening, emergency services or like explanation of it when it's happening in the moment so that people can actively know. So thank you for providing those resources, including unhealthy air. We also have extreme weather events of flooding. And so flooding is a huge problem. We're a special area of New Jersey. We're unfortunately one of the first colonized areas. And so a lot of our infrastructure is really old, especially our sewer systems, which are a combined sewer system, which if some people aren't aware, that means our sewage and our street, pipes and the water that comes out of our, the tubs, exactly, the showers, they all go into the same system and they all get processed at the same time. So, and turned into, clean water. So the issue with that is when it floods, that comes out through our drains and all syncs up together. So our clean drinking water becomes a concern. So I think, including that extreme weather planning, we need to have better understanding of what we are going to do in the future for flood mitigation, such as like unobstructed sewers, so that they don't get clogged, as well as we were talking about mature trees, native trees are extremely important. I'll talk a little bit more about natives. I'm gonna try to be quicker, but rain gardens and obviously proper rescue plans, for the people during the really, really bad rain. Was it Ida? I think it was 30 people died in sewage water. That's literally disgusting and so unfortunate. And that's because we didn't have plans in place to protect people. And this will continue happening. So would be really important to, start working on maybe updating the sewer systems, which I know is like an $8 billion project for
$30
billion project. Exactly. So we need to figure out other solutions while we make sure that we protect our community from actually dying in sewage, which is absolutely disgusting and unacceptable. Obviously, I harp on the no turnpike expansion and no gas power plants. I'm just going to say it briefly, just because a couple other people have already mentioned it. Something else that to speak locally is we need to have better town planning, because we're in our community, New York City has these extremely high-rise apartments and things like that, and the infrastructure to support them. But specifically speaking of North Bergen, they are planning to build a 1,000 unit apartment building, like right down the hill from my house on 50th Street. And there's no grocery store there nearby. The schools are already overcrowded. So where are we putting these people? The garbage is already overflowing and we're already having flooding. So the infrastructure is not capable for handling that. And I don't think, specifically speaking of my experience in North Bergen, the idea of luxury and making money for the township is more the priority than actually offering resources to the new people or the people that already live here, the resources that they need. So I think it's really important that we have proper community planning, especially because, you're displacing your low income residents by creating these luxury apartments, by raising the rents in other places. And so, why would we have more people in our community if we can't even support them here, if we can't even support the people that are already here? So to continue on, I find that there's very few groceries in our area that offer fresh food. So I think it would be really important to get more fresh food options in our community. Obviously, I help to run the Union City Community Garden and the North Bergen Community Garden. So that is a great opportunity to get that hands-on experience and learn about how to grow your own fresh food. So, more use of abandoned properties or use of public space to offer those learning opportunities to actually grow our own fresh food. Obviously, it will not, one-to-one give us enough food for what we need to consume as a community, because there is a lot of people here, but it is important for us to learn those skills.
Ceci, do you want to just wrap us up with maybe one last point, just so we can get to some others?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
I guess the last thing, I'll just say the last three things without explaining them. Native plants, obviously extremely important per ecosystem, compost drop off, less food waste, and recycling programs for our non-recyclables to prevent the garbage.
Agreed, and agreed.
Yeah.
And all of the issues that you've hit upon have some nexus to the work we're doing at DEP, and there are programs in place, that you may not know about and that may be helpful to you. So, one of the things that I'll ask is that if you hadn't left your information on the sign-in sheet, that you do, so that we can share some of our resources with you. And Lisa, you
Yeah,
probably do
I
the
was gonna
same.
say, if you have the list, if we could have it, because
Oh,
we also have resources for climate planning, for compost. Anyway, so, okay, good. Thank you so much.
We want to see it. We want to see it more locally too. We want to see it on the local level. Thank you.
Agreed. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So we do have a number of people still in line and a number of questions and people with their hand raised, number of people in person in line, a number of people online with their hands raised. So I'm going to ask, just take moderators prerogative right now, that if you have a comment or concern about Braddock Park, that we save it to the end to allow for a diversity of issues to be said. So let's save Braddock Park to the end, because we've heard a number of comments about that. And let's try to hear some other issues. So we'll go to the next person in the room, and then we'll flip back to online.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sam DeFalco. I use she and her pronouns, and I'm a fairly new resident of Hudson County. I've been here about half a year, but I've been working in this county as an organizer with the group Food and Water Watch for close to 4 years now. And we are very concerned, this was brought up earlier, but we are very concerned about the fossil fuel projects proposed around the state, 3 of which have really significant impacts on Hudson County, talking about the gas plants proposed by PVSC, the Passaic Valley Sewerage Commission, and the New Jersey Transit in Kearney. And of course, the Turnpike expansion, which although isn't technically a fossil fuel project in the way you think about a gas burning plant, but rather like thousands of smaller gas burning vehicles idling in our communities. And yeah, just I don't want to be redundant, but one of the reasons why we're especially concerned about these projects, not just because they are affecting Hudson County, but because these are projects proposed by state agencies that should be upholding our state's commitments to protecting environmental justice communities. Lots of science and studies and research has shown that these projects aren't needed. We don't need more lanes on the turnpike. We don't need these resiliency projects when we've had grid infrastructure improvements. PVSC is also building a flood wall. And so in a lot of ways, by allowing these projects to move ahead, it feels like it's really in a huge way undermining our state's commitments to environmental justice. So yeah, definitely want to encourage the DEP to do what they can to stop these projects, rejecting air permit applications for them, and doing what you can to, stop all of them from happening and new projects from being proposed in the region. Just, yeah, reflecting on what when you look at the EJ map online on the DEP's website, this region is completely inundated with pollution. And of course, factors, all of the other factors that make an EJ community designated as an EJ community. I think it feels like only like a few very small areas in Hudson County are not considered overburdened communities. And so, yeah, want to urge the DEP to stop these projects from moving ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us and for your advocacy. I'll ask, just because I want to make sure that we do hear folks who have their hands up and everyone else that is remaining in line. If you have a matter to share or a question to raise that hasn't been touched on by someone else already that you've heard, by all means, please step forward so that we can hear newer things So aside, in addition to the Braddock Park, we hear you on the fossil fuel projects as well. That way we'll talk to you afterward, of course, but just so that we can get to everybody. You want to go to the next online?
The woman online is waving. She has a new mission. The one, yeah, she's waving. See. No,
So let's go to Chris Miller online.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I have two questions for the panel. First question is the opinion of the NJDEP that the number of trees, green spaces, parks, et cetera, per capita, and I'm thinking of a quantitative number, green spaces per capita expected to be lower in a dense urban environment such as Hudson County, New Jersey, relative to other counties in New Jersey that might have more rural and suburban areas. Or put another way, if somebody wants to move to Hudson County, New Jersey, should they expect that there's just going to be fewer green spaces per capita? The second question I have is, I've noticed some trees planted in Hudson County and that have died. And what processes are in place to ensure that trees that are being planted are going to succeed and remain healthy and not die? Thanks.
Chris, thank you for, ooh, that was loud. Sorry, everybody. Chris, thank you for your questions. I don't know that DEP has an official opinion about tree density. I have a personal one that I'll share, which is that every single person, regardless of where they live or what their income is or what they look like or what their background is, every single person deserves access to green open space and nature. That is a foundational principle for us at the Department of Environmental Protection. And how we deploy our programs, meaning in this space, mostly grant dollars, is consonant with that principle. We seek to deploy our community tree planting grant programs and our carbon cap grant proceeds from the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative and our Green Acres funding with a priority toward those areas. So that is one way that we operationalize that principle. But it is not the case, and I think surprising to a lot of folks, that the Department of Environmental Protection does not regulate trees. It is not a point of our statutory and regulatory authority. It is a more local jurisdictional issue. And the way that we can help is by steering the money that we invest into communities that don't have enough of these environmental benefits. But that is why the local governments often have shade tree commissions. And to my points earlier, really important to engage at that level, because though we are the DEP, don't get to decide everything in the environment. And then to the second question about tree health, it is, when a town is working with us on urban and community forestry, we work with them to develop plans to maintain that tree health. So it's not just it's not just plant it and forget it, but plant it with the intent to maintain it. So we try to help in all the ways we can, and it's very important to also carry those messages to the county and local levels that we give our state money to deploy these things.
And I just say, to add on, we're very much looking to expand our relationships with municipalities, especially those that have overburdened communities, in our urban and community forestry program. And so the monies that the commissioner was just referencing that we have to fund tree work, tree management, tree and forestry planning within towns, we'd love to expand those relationships with overburdened communities. So please see us about that. So we'll go to the next person in the room, and then we'll go to Mary and Roger online after.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Felix, and I am a recent grad of city and regional planning. I study urban planning at Pratt Institute. I also am very involved with the Union City Community Garden because this is my community. And what I came here to do is address the inaccessibility that the people and communities do not have to create community development. A lot of the projects within urban spaces are catered towards private developers rather than community-based organizations or nonprofit organizations. So we do not have that accessibility to create or propose certain projects. I do hear that we do have the Green Acres program, but even then that is clearly there isn't enough response from local government as well as statewide government in order to implement needed community development projects within urban communities. I did study certain brownfield development projects that are accessible that are online, such as the Brownfield Development Area program, as well as the incentive. I'm sorry?
Marion, we will go to you after Felix finishes. Keep going, Felix.
As well as the Brownfield Incentive Program, which is a recent program. But if you look at the New Jersey database and you look at the brownfield sites that are identified, they're either unupdated and there is no reason for the brownfield development area. There are no identified sites in Union City as well as in other cities around Hudson County. I believe there are 3 in Jersey City, but that's about it. So there is no opportunity for us as a community or nonprofit organizations to develop greener spaces or any other project because the opportunities are not in place statewide.
I really appreciate what you're pointing out, Felix, and I'm going to interpret that a little bit in my state government speak. So one of the things that Felix's comment brings to mind is that institutions like mine, the DEP, in the grant opportunities and investment opportunities that we provide, those opportunities often flow directly to local governments. And that is in fact the structure, as a matter of statute and regulation. The Biden and Harris administration on the federal level, and I'm going to turn to Lisa in a second on this, is doing something really transformative for government, which is to provide more opportunities directly to community-based organizations. And that is a bit of a sea change in the work that we do, because it tends to flow from federal government to state government to county to local government in terms of the opportunities we provide. So Lisa, I just kind of wanted to kick it over to you to share some thoughts on opportunities directly to community-based organizations.
Yes, great, thanks. So yes, the great thing about the last few years, especially with the Biden-Harris administration, as the commissioner said, is funding that will go straight to communities. And one of the bills that we got, there's about $3 billion essentially for environmental justice work, which goes to community organization, goes to what we call the technical assistance, thriving community technical assistance centers to help communities with that capacity of trying to figure out what type of grants are available and how to apply for those grants. And then the other is for collaborative problem solving. And then just on the brownfields piece, I'd be interested in it. Maybe we can connect afterwards, but one part of the brownfields funding, and we did get more money to do this brownfields work, is also the assessment of where those properties are. And so like you're saying, maybe the old maps haven't been updated, or maybe there's new sites that we need to do like a phase 1 assessment. And then there could be funding for a phase 2, which is really figuring out what kind of cleanup opportunities are there, or could it be a site that is reused for the community? So we would love to, have your information and share some of that money, especially because we're a little bit in the sweet spot that some of this funding is about to hit the waves or the news, that we are going to be looking for about $2 billion in applications for this type of work directly with communities and of course for communities. So it's an exciting time for us at EPA to work with our partners in trying to figure out how to get the money spent and help build that capacity and the kind of groundwork that needs to happen in communities.
I just have one more comment. Thank you so much for all the resources, and I appreciate the time that you're taking in to spread this information, because again, even if this information is available on site, it's not accessible, or people do not think to go to certain websites or go to certain spaces to access this information. So again, I appreciate what you're giving me. One last comment, entirely aside from this, is the climate change education PDF for teachers. I read through it, and one of the issues that I have with it is that they amalgamated the transportation listing as 42 contributors for 42% of greenhouse gas emissions, and it includes buses and airplanes and everything that has to do with transportation. And I think that's a terrible thing to do, especially if you want to showcase this to students, because public transportation is something that is accessible, needs to be more readily accessible to people, and it shouldn't be antagonized in that way. It shouldn't put placed together with the airplanes and with these high contributors of greenhouse gas emissions.
Interesting. That is a really good point of feedback, Felix. Thank you. That is really good. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, with all the like single
We'll go
cars
to
and
Marion next online.
bus. Yep, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I didn't mean to interrupt Felix. I'm sorry if I did. It was not intentional. I'm with Sustainable Jersey City. We're a 501c3 in Jersey City, specifically targeting every effort we can to make Jersey City a sustainable place and a resilient place to both live and work. By the way, many of you may or may not already know that October is National Healthy Lung Month. October 25th, a week from tomorrow, is National Healthy Lung Day. I mention that because I joined Sustainable Jersey City as head of fundraising around Memorial Day weekend, and talk about getting thrown into the deep end. A week later was June 7th, when, as everybody knows, apocalyptic skies and air quality readings were absolutely horrific. We're involved in a lot of different things here, but I would like very much to ask a question in particular. The low-income communities of color often endure decades of environmental racism and governmental neglect. The majority of the Black and brown neighborhoods in Jersey City have been saddled with waste transfer stations, highly polluting highways, and traffic intersections. We are known for having what's called Asthma Alley, one of the highest rates of asthma in New Jersey, and probably that of Jersey City, Hudson County. The thing is, residents know that their communities are suffering from this. They all know, but they all seem to lack access about the precise data conditions about where they're living, working, or going to school, or leaving their children or their grandparents. This is something very important to us at every level, whether we have kids or not, whether we have grandkids or not. Because a growing body of research is linking air pollution to cognitive decline, mental and physical health issues, and even aggression or violence. Schools currently spend a significant portion of their day in their developing years, and that it's been relatively understudied. Researchers are also saying there's so much to learn about how air pollution in and around schools affects students' academic performance. Columbia University is doing a project with a bunch of schools in the Bronx to study the data. And it's actually supported by funding from NASA on participatory air quality monitoring, which is a form of citizen science in which non-researchers work with researchers to collect pollution data. So participatory air quality monitoring projects have been helping residents address toxic air in their communities. And I'm just kind of wondering, you know, the EPA recently awarded $53.4 million to community monitoring projects across the country. It's the largest ever EPA investment in such projects. However, only 5 of the 132 recipients are school-based projects. And I'm wondering what you guys can do to help us take care of these kids in Jersey City and help us get the money to put one of these projects together. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, yeah, so you're right that we put out $53 million for community air monitoring programs. It was based on applications and working together. So even though if you don't see a school, there's probably a community group or some local group that's working with the entity. And obviously the data that is received will be to be able to make decisions and figure out what that local, the local pollution levels are, or what the monitoring shows. So, so hopefully there's at least the outcome and the data will be able to be used by schools and by academia and by others to be able to inform solutions in that local community. And then the other piece just on while that is for community air monitoring projects, there's obviously funding going out for, not obviously, but we know obviously, but there is more money for clean school bus programs. And that's how we're really trying to focus in on children and schools in particular. And I think that's $1 billion every year over the next 5 years that's going out. And I know that New
Nationwide
Jersey
or just Hudson County?
for clean school, but
Oh, we wish it was for all
Yeah.
for New Jersey.
yeah, no, that's for the nation, but we know we actually worked for the first round that went out. New Jersey was very loud and clear with us that New Jersey only got, I think, two districts got the school buses. And so we worked very hard to make sure that New Jersey is in a much more competitive position working. Now, this is again, working with schools. So if it's a municipal run bus fleet, then those would be the ones that apply. And then, of course, like I mentioned, the EJ grants that are coming out, $3 billion in total. And so that's another way that schools or community groups or local entities can apply. And there's no limit on the type of project. So it could be a community air monitoring project. It could be, like we heard from some folks in Newark and Elizabeth, on specific air monitoring around ports. Anyway, and so once again, so this is an effort, like the commissioner said earlier, it is to get the money out to local communities for projects that really make sense for them and the work that they want to see move forward.
Thank you. And I'm specifically looking for citizen science. I mean, I look at the Bronx where the school in particular has been taking a direct role in monitoring their own air. They're working with Columbia University researchers. We could work with Rutgers or Stevens Institute, but I would like to find out, is there funding to help enable students to collect and do participatory air quality monitoring, collecting real-time air quality readings using small, low-cost sensors, whether it's wearables or in the classroom? Because the point is, if we have to wait till you guys come to us with the study and it's another 5 or 10 years of results, how can we actively in our community educate them about the risks that they're facing that might help them make different decisions? Like instead of taking a walk with a baby in a stroller, they might decide not to go out today. You know, and so educating them is part of our mission, it's part of our mandate, but it's also finding the data and being citizen science and participating in it to help you guys. Is there any money for that?
Yeah, that's why that's exactly what the money is for. You know, if you think about EJ 101, it's about communities speaking for themselves. And so that's why the EPA, working with our state partners, is not trying to dictate where the money goes or how the money is spent. And so we have a lot of projects under the participatory science projects, community-based projects. We've funded like the kids on the corner with the air monitor in the backpack. And so I think once again, I think we've heard loud and clear, communities don't want the government coming to them and saying, this is what you need. You need, this parking lot or whatever. And so it's a whole flip on how we're doing it. And so unfortunately, I don't know if someone working with Rutgers is already talking about this, but that is the whole goal, is that hopefully there are coalitions or folks already ready to propose that type of project. And so why don't we talk offline? Because we wouldn't propose the project. That is the key to this being different, is that the community devises the project and comes to us, and then we fund it.
Yeah, Marion, I
Right.
think it might be great for you to put your information, your contact information in the chat box, and then our team can, from DEP and
Absolutely.
EPA can make sure you get what you need, but we should probably move to the, thank you, Marion, by the
Thank you
way.
very much. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'll take the next person at the mic.
And thank you all for your patience. Well, I will not leave until we get through the line.
Hi, my name is Johan Andrade. I'm a North Bergen resident, Hudson County resident for 30 years. First, I want to thank you for staying overtime to listen to us. I'll be brief. I want to touch upon the Turnpike expansion and last week's release of the environmental impact statement draft that was released. As you know, the Turnpike expansion is not a fossil fuel project, but it will increase vehicular traffic in our communities that are already overburdened. And we know that transportation is the #1 source of greenhouse gases in our country and our state. So we're going to have increased traffic, more pollution, PM2.5s, more tire microplastics. The EIS doesn't seem to take into consideration the alternatives such as mass transit or freight rail or repairs to old infrastructure that we desperately need. So my question to the panel and to the DEP is, how can we regulate transportation so that projects like the Turnpike expansions don't happen in the first place? And how can the DEP influence better land use so that people have access to walkable, cyclable cities, to essential services that they don't have to drive everywhere, and to efficient and frequent public transit so that they can get to where they need to get? We're talking about bus lanes on the George Washington Bridge, more bus lanes on the Lincoln Tunnel, bus lanes on the Holland Tunnel, expansion of the light rail. What happened to the Bergen County in the Hudson-Bergen light rail? This is $10 billion that we can use to fund so much environmental and sustainable projects like bioswales to help with rainstorms when our communities continue to flood. These are my challenges to you, and I hope you get back to us on how we can make people move around without the destruction and impact of private vehicle passenger. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. I think part of the question there was, how do we better regulate transportation? And I think sort of stepping back from my very DEP centric work, which doesn't include regulating much transportation, right? Because our environmental laws weren't set up that way, 50 years ago. And so it's less a matter about how do we regulate transportation, rather as it's less a question about how do we regulate it, and more so a question about what type of communities do we want to live in, and then to bring that thinking to the spaces where those decisions are made, right? That our town council meetings and our land use board meetings, where the determinations are made about what our communities are going to look like. Now, that's time consuming for folks to go to all these meetings, right? But it's important to engage in those spaces. And so there's another related process that is ongoing in the state of New Jersey right now that you may or may not know about, but that is very directly related to this issue. And that is the development of a new state plan. And the state plan is put out by an element of the Department of State that is called the Office of Planning Advocacy. And and through a commission called the State Planning Commission, and there are a lot of members of that commission. I'm one of them. But that commission is holding multiple public engagement sessions in order to solicit the input to build that next state plan. And that is an important place to engage, because determinations made in the state plan ultimately drive government investment or drive regulatory application. And it is really worthy of being attentive to. And so if you were to just Google New Jersey State Planning Commission, you would find that information. And it is something that, left up to its own devices, that it will make decisions for you the way that government does in the absence of your voice, which is why we want to hear it here. So be attentive to that, because it is important toward the end that you're suggesting.
And my team in the back can connect you to the opportunities the commissioner was just mentioning, those rounds of stakeholder meetings that the State Planning Commission is having. We can connect you and we'll send it as a follow-up to all the attendees. Okay, we will go to Christopher Vasquez online next.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I was trying to prepare. Okay, so thank you guys for hearing all of us. I think a lot of people have already made a lot of good points. So I'll try to be really brief. First, I wanted to, just to introduce myself, I'm a lifelong resident of Kearney, New Jersey. I'm also a member of the local community garden here. First, I wanted to urge NJDEP to do what they can to stop the fossil fuel projects in New Jersey and the NJ Turnpike expansion. The NJ Transit gas plant in South Kearney hits close to home, and if built, will impact Hudson County at large in negative ways for several years to come. Some of which are exacerbating climate change, air quality, et cetera, that we've already discussed tonight. Additionally, I'd like NJDEP to do what they can to expand access to composting with the goal of a statewide composting legislation that emphasizes the space for local and community composting and minimizes the consolidation of a future compost industry and reduces the role of anaerobic digestion facilities. So I don't know if you're familiar with some of the new legislation over in California and how that with composting, with the state composting mandate over there, and how that's kind of been impacting some of the local composters over there. So just to be really brief, the legislation itself didn't really accommodate for giving a space for local and community composters. So a lot of the contracts that go out from the municipality tend to favor these larger waste management companies that can actually manage the large waste to handle these contracts. So I think that's something that we need to evaluate if we're going to do at the state level. And we also we need to acknowledge that that's a resource, like that compost waste is a resource. We should be able to process it locally and apply it to our local parks and to our local farms, right? So we shouldn't really be moving it offsite, exacerbating carbon emissions in that way. So I think that's a huge opportunity for New Jersey to do it differently than how we're seeing it done at the in California and possibly New York State too. And then give me one second. Then lastly, I kind of just wanted to touch upon, like, I was hoping that NJDEP could expand opportunities for developing and integrating like more sustainable urban developments, such as like integrating rain gardens in a lot of main streets, planting more trees, and just trying to have urban development designed with local movement in mind. Most people's journeys are like 1 to 3 miles. We all like a good downtown, I feel like, generally speaking, just where you can eat and go to the bank, go pick up pharmacy, maybe pick up some groceries all in, a short walk. So I think that's a larger picture of like just how we live, and I think it's often overlooked. So there's a lot of stacking functions in that. So I think anything that NJDEP could do to encourage that type of development long term, I think would benefit the state. And that's all I have for tonight.
Well, Chris, thank you very much for those thoughts. You sparked a sidebar between Administrator Garcia and I relative to your composting comments. It is often the case that as legislation like this is developed, it is focused on large aggregators as opposed to not opposed to, it's focused on large aggregators because, well, the government is used to regulating large things, but sometimes that can have an unintended effect of discouraging or making more burdensome local applications of that same endeavor. And certainly we want, as an environmental agency, we want to promote composting. So your comments are hitting home.
Yeah, I agree. So we were just looking into what opportunities there are under, our green infrastructure policies, under our solid waste and recycling programs. Anyway, so it was, right now we couldn't figure out where it would plug in, but it makes sense. So thank you for raising that.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys acknowledging that. I'm actually like really, I've been composting for like over 10 years. So I'm really passionate about that. There's some great content by the Institute for Local Reliance, ISLR, about this topic and how these state legislation is impacting just local composters. I mean, I think New Jersey has a unique situation because right now, I guess, composting in the state, like opening your own compost business is technically illegal because I think you need like a waste license. Yeah, so I might not be getting the technicalities of that correct, but
it does call for a revised approach to the topic, and so that resonates. And if you've not paid attention to the work of Senator Smith, who's the chairman of the Senate Environment Committee. I think that's worthy. He would be worthy of your outreach and would be very receptive to your comments as well. So I'd make that suggestion to you as we move on to our next speaker here in the room.
Thank you so much.
All right, good evening. Jimmy Lee. I'm a resident of Jersey City in Hudson County, obviously. I want to say something different from what folks have spoken before, but I do want to echo opposition to all new fossil fuel plants in New Jersey, as well as the $10.7 billion expansion of the Turnpike extension. My daughter goes to school in the shadow of the Turnpike, and so do thousands of children in the city of Jersey City. It is not one school, it is dozens of schools. They're directly underneath the Turnpike. I want to challenge you all. I think I do feel, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. I wish Governor Murphy would come to Jersey City and walk the Turnpike with us. So if you have the chance to invite him, it's an honest invitation, and we would host him and show him, what we see every day in Jersey City and Hudson County. I think I just want to say, for environmental justice, it is a beautiful idea, right? This idea that communities that have suffered already so much that we say enough and no more, at the very least. We're not saying we're going to make anything better. We're just saying no more, right? That's all we're saying. It's very frustrating to come here and, sort of understand that, oh, there's nothing we can do. Go talk to the Turnpike Authority. Go talk to this person. Go talk to that. And I want to raise the alarm here that there's not just $10.7 billion in highway money for this extension. The New Jersey Turnpike Authority has a capital plan of $30 billion, and none of that includes any of the expansion plans by NJDOT. So I understand we don't need permits for mobile sources of pollution for some reason. Okay, I don't understand the details of that, but I understand that. And I do want to raise that there are other avenues, and I hope NJDOT can be creative, look at it and see what are things that we do regulate and how do we get this done. One, for example, would be noise, right? So I think over 65 decibels, the NJDEP is supposed to regulate things like that. The Turnpike Authority purposely does construction. That $10 billion aside, they do redecking and constant projects on that extension all the time. Do you know when they do them? Friday nights, 2 a.m. to like 5 a.m., jackhammers. Da, 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 da. Do you know what's next to the Turnpike extension? Apartments, residences, the people of Hudson County and Jersey City. It's unacceptable. They have to be breaking some kind of rule. I don't understand it, right? And then what they propose to do is to tear down the entire thing and rebuild it new. How could that possibly work, in the middle of the night, waking people up? Do want to also point out that noise, specifically from traffic and highways, is something that has been studied to greatly harm the health of those in surrounding communities. There was a study in 2018 of 16,000 Garden State residents. It found that the heart attack rate was 72% higher in areas with a lot of transportation noise, as high noise as defined as over that 65 decibel limit that we're supposed to adhere to. I also want to just point out that, we have street cleaning in Jersey City. As I understand that, we have to have street cleaning, because if we don't have street cleaning, the tire and brake particulates that come from all our vehicles would wash into our waterways, and so it's required. And I also, 50% of the particulate pollution from cars is coming from brake and tire dust. Maybe if it was like a 70s car spewing, leaded gasoline, maybe it wouldn't be 50-50, but for a modern car, that's what it is. And how do we regulate that? What do we do about that? How can we stop that? We are in this middle of this environmental impact statement period. The first phase happens to go over waterway and wetlands. So there is this environment impact statement. If we don't do something about the project now, then I don't know that the other phases really have this opportunity for deep review. And, you know, they just released that EIS. It does say that there is no impact somehow. You know, they say that it's for more cars and for more trucks, but they also say that there won't be any impact. It's just for the trucks to move faster. I think that's, you know, definitely some kind of contradiction. I also want to speak a moment for just sort of on this bus topic. I think we do really need to not be like, as far as there is a good return on public health, you know, I firmly support electrification of buses. I do want to give some context for Hudson County and Jersey City. The city of Jersey City, no kids take buses. All right, that $1 billion for electric school buses, it's nothing. Like it doesn't work for us, right? It is extremely difficult to get a bus. You either have special needs, or it's like an athletics bus, right? You take public transportation. That does not serve us in this environmental justice community. I do also overall, I think for the state of New Jersey, you know, what Governor Murphy would say is like, we're you know, EVs, right? I think, you know, in our advocacy for safe streets, we look at only one number, 0 deaths, right? Getting to 0 deaths on our roadways. I think we really need to switch our mindset here from, you know, sort of this like treasure mindset of how many EVs have we accumulated to how much less gas are we burning. And that includes communities like Hudson County, where the majority of people are not commuting with cars, right? What about what about 0 car households? What about all these school kids that are taking buses, that are walking to school? How are we not counting those? The #1 selling electrical vehicle in the United States are e-bikes, right? And we don't have, what are we doing to encourage that? I just want to end with a couple of random grab bag things that I think are maybe slightly interesting, but one is I do want to thank NJDP for taking action on the Hudson River Walkway in the city of Weehawken. They're bad actors. I think you need to follow up with them and make sure that they keep their pool open and they keep their Greenacre Walkway open. We literally have so many municipalities in the state of New Jersey for the purposes of segregation, ethnically, racially, or by income. That is the history of New Jersey and why we have so many different small municipalities. And I urge that NJDP just continue to follow up with the municipality of Weehawken to reverse, you know, their blatant attempts at discrimination. And last, I'll end with lantern flies. Yeah, so
I love the span of these comments, Jimmy. It is.
I'm trying to be helpful. It's a long night. I don't want to get out of the way so other people can comment. But with lantern flies, you know, the lantern flies, you know, they took the turnpike, or they took, you know, New Jersey Transit into New Jersey from Pennsylvania. You know, the source of this is really, they live on a tree called the Tree of Heaven, which you all may be familiar with. But that's not in the literature. That's not in what is being promoted. You know, what's being promoted is, you know, run around and stomp on them, right? Which obviously, you know, has very limited effect, right? And I just hope that we can do better education on tackling the invasive Tree of Heaven, which does contribute to monoculture, kills other plant life, and yeah, hosts the lanternflies, which we do not love. So, okay, thank you.
Jimmy, thank you. There was a lot in there. There's one thing that I do want to address and be clear about. I am not suggesting that there is nothing that we can do about many of the concerns raised here. Not by a long shot. What I am suggesting is that your advocacy on these issues must reach all the rooms, because the authorities of a DEP or any other state agency only reaches so far. And government is set up that way purposefully. It's set up to to have limitations on power, because limitations on power are appropriate. But that does mean that that there are more points of decision-making and more points of engagement. And I thank you for engaging here. We do have a say on an EIS, and we will evaluate the EIS you mentioned as we do every single one for every state-sponsored project over $1 million, because that is part of our job. While there are no permits for mobile sources, cars and such, because the Clean Air Act is not set up that way. There is evaluation of cumulative impacts in the setting of the EIS, and we will do that. But that same request should be carried to all of these other parts of government that have disintegrated power structures purposefully to promote democracy. So please continue to advocate in those spaces as well.
So I just want to do a quick time check. We have 15 minutes left because we need to be out of this space by 8:30. So we'll take the last two people at the mic plus Robert online. So how about we start with Robert?
And but maybe we do a type of lightning round type. Say something new and say it fast, and then we'll respond as fast.
Go for it, Robert.
Hello, I'm not here for a lightning rod. I've spent 10 years studying what's gone on in Braddock Park, and a lot of wrongdoing has gone on. And I'm surprised, Commissioner, that you don't know the details and that you're ready to skip to the finish line, believing that the quantity of replacement land justifies everything that's come before. And it doesn't, because the quality of the replacement land is not equal to the quality of the Braddock Park land that will be lost, nor is the proper amount of compensatory replacement land being offered. And I'd like to fill you in on the details since you don't seem to know much about them.
Robert, I'm gonna ask that we hear from others about issues other than Braddock Park, not because I'm
fair. I'm here to speak.
Sir,
I waited
sir.
all night to speak to you. I waited 10 years to speak to you. Do
Sir.
not censor me.
Sir, I'm not trying to censor you.
You are.
No, sir, that's not the case. And I'm happy to speak with you, but I just want to make sure the folks that have been sitting here this evening to speak on other matters as well have a chance. So if hold on, and we will talk to you about
People have
Braddock
spoken
Park.
about other matters, and I would like to talk about something new about Braddock Park that nobody has touched on. Why is that a problem?
It's not a problem.
And let me speak, please. And
Okay,
stop
can you
wasting time.
can you do it in 60 seconds or less with our
No,
lightning?
I cannot.
Okay,
You have
so
wasted-
I'm
No.
going to ask you to let others speak, and
No,
I will
not
make
let
sure
others speak.
I will
it is
make
my
sure that you
turn.
get
Stop
some
interrupting me. I will speak now, and I will speak it in 60 seconds, okay?
Okay, deal.
Okay, so in 2001, Nick Sacco illegally put the preschool into Braddock Park. He knew that people didn't want a school in the park because they rejected a high school in the park in 2000. It took 10 years for DEP to notice that there was an illegal diversion in Braddock Park. The 2001 and the 2005 inspectors did not report the non-compliance, and they should have. And then in 2011, an inspector issued a violation for both the illegal diversion of the school land and for the illegal diversion of parking lot land, which DEP is not even considering other than 6 parking spaces. The whole parking lot was diverted, and it needs a compensatory replacement land. And part of this process, this diversion process, is not to jump to the end and say you can't lose green space. The fact is, that the process involves doing an alternatives analysis. And North Bergen has not done a proper alternatives analysis because since 2016, they haven't looked for a single new alternative location for the preschool. That's because in 2016, North Bergen committed to moving all the preschools out of Braddock Park and into elementary schools. This was their school realignment plan, and New Jersey Department of Education approved it, and North Bergen voters approved it, and approved $65 million in the belief that it would end the non-compliance in Braddock Park, that it would get the school out of Braddock Park, and that all the preschoolers would go to the neighborhood elementary schools. That's what North Bergen officials told DEP, DOE, and residents. And now North Bergen has sabotaged that plan by deciding to discontinue leasing Robert Fulton Annex Elementary School. Otherwise, this plan is still doable. And North Bergen can also use an acre or two of the approximately 40 acres it plans to redevelop, as well as other lands that it's refused to buy with eminent domain. So it shouldn't take DEP months to decide this matter. We've waited 22 years and we want this environmental injustice corrected now, as soon as the renovations are made to high-tech high school.
Thank you for sharing that. And as I promised, when this decision comes to me, which it has not, and that is purposeful because I have to be its final judge, that I will forcefully evaluate the materials, which I have to imagine include what you just shared if you've participated in the underlying public comment processes. I will forcefully review it. Thank you. And thank you for being concise in the interest of others. Thank you.
Chris.
Good night, everybody. Well, hello, my name is Chris Tondasso. I'm the statewide environmental justice organizer with the New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance, but I'm coming to you today as a Jersey City resident and a Hudson County resident. Thank you, all three of you, for being here today. We really appreciate it and for staying longer than expected. One first point, I will also just like to point out on outreach. Hudson County, there's a lot of languages and various dialects that happen here. I only saw this being promoted, excuse me, in Spanish. I mean, in English and Spanish, and we have many more languages outside of that. Stephanie brought that up earlier. We would have this room a lot more filled up if we had done more outreach in different languages and different communities.
That's really good feedback for us, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem. Something else that I wanted to bring up is the waste injustices that happen in Hudson County. We have over 9 transfer stations, which are stations that bring in, collect trash and then take it all to the incinerator in in Newark. And they're all throughout the entire county. And on top of that, we also have I think like 6 scrap metal facilities. And over the summer, one of those metal facilities went on fire. And I don't know if y'all came aware of that.
Yes, and actually, when we were towards some sites, which is a common practice for us when we host these engagement sessions beforehand, we do a tour of the community and try to get a view based on enforcement records or anecdotes that we've heard from advocates about sites of concern. And so we did do such a tour beforehand and noticed one new scrap facility or relocated scrap facility prior to our tour. So they do have our highest attention.
Yeah, because we need to be able to prevent these fires from happening. And how are we holding these companies accountable for them to actually make amends for the harm that they have caused to the communities? The scrap metal facility was placed right next to Berry Lane Park, which is a park that I'm pretty sure the DEP funded to be developed. And then it's in the Bergen Lafayette area here in Jersey City. And I could smell the smoke coming from my house. I live in McKinley Square in Jersey City, less than 2 miles from the fire, and you can smell it all the way over there. And that was near the times where the smoke, I think it was a week or after where the wildfires were happening. So, like there's that tension of like what harms this kind of infrastructure exposed to our communities. We also have energy transfer stations that are in the western part of Jersey City. And we also, the entire part of Jersey City and Bayonne, we're all heavily exposed to the pollution that's coming from the incinerators and all the infrastructure and the ports. So we also have to be thinking about cross-county support and cross-county accountability so that we are also collaborating with Essex County to reduce the amount of waste that's going into the incinerator so that less pollution is generated from the incinerators. Something else that additional is drinking water. As y'all folks have mentioned here before, there's a lot of flooding happening in Jersey City due to terrible TSO systems. So definitely a point to bring up. And I know that that's something that DEP has been working on. However, I think it needs to be brought to the community level because there's a lot of community folks that have many different ways of that this is impacting them in different ways. And then how do they to engage them into this process. And last summer when I forgot when the storm happened, which is really sad to say, but when Ida happened, I was out of water for like a week and we had to keep get cases of water so that we can have clean drinking water. So what are we doing to prevent these things from happening in the future as to ensure that our our water pipelines are well built and they don't have any lead leakage? Another, and because, so I don't know if y'all know, but there's like talks of a bottle bill coming to New Jersey, and we want to advocate for water refill stations for folks to refill their stuff, but we can't advocate for that unless we have clean water to drink from. So folks can't, I can't ask anybody to go refill their water bottle from the tap because I know for a fact that it's not healthy for us to drink it. So I think it's really important for us to in those conversations.
There's one point that I want to that I want to respond to. Well, several points I want to respond to, but in the interest of time, and I'm going to be lightning round. CSOs are we are on the cusp of getting our largest CSO permit renewals out the door, which have I think the most aggressive environmental justice and community engagement criteria in the country. So you can look forward to seeing those soon. And the other point about water quality, absolutely drink the water from the tap. New Jersey has some of the cleanest drinking water in the country. Yes. During storm occurrences, if there is a water main break or a reservoir overflow, there may be temporary circumstances where you might be advised to boil water, for example. But as a statewide matter, our water quality, drinking water quality, is outstanding because we have some of the strictest science-based standards to protect that water in the nation. And so the reason we invest so much in that is because we want folks to have confidence in it. And so I'd encourage you to maintain that, to maintain confidence in it, because that's what drives more investment so that folks aren't resorting to bottled water, except in those circumstances where you may have a water main break or something of that nature.
Thank you for that. Well, I'm not sure about that because in Newark, there's lead in the water.
Newark has no more lead in its water.
Okay. We'll follow up on that for sure.
It's true. All lead lines have been removed in the city of Newark. Yep.
That get their water tested and it comes out as having lead.
That would be because of indoor plumbing, but not because of the lead lines that have all been removed. It's smart to get your water tested because you want to know if your indoor plumbing is a problem. What I'm saying is that you can have confidence in the water as it reaches your home, but it is important to understand if the indoor plumbing of a building is a problem.
Yeah, and I would hope that DEP can support communities in understanding that because I don't think we knew that,
Yeah, that is a really good point.
Yeah, something just three more points really quickly. There's no EJ and there's no environmental justice without housing justice. And right now we're facing a extreme hyperdevelopment of housing in Jersey City, unaffordable housing, luxury housing for a lot of folks. And I know we've heard a lot of talks about green spaces being developed, but I think it's really important for us to be mindful of how green spaces are becoming a pathway for gentrification and increasing in property prices. And I think that's a really big issue. And it's really important to have some sort of cross-agency accountability with whoever handles housing, so that not a lot of that when green spaces are being developed, the property taxes don't go up, so people don't get kicked out of this place.
Those are really good points, and I'm happy to share them with the housing commissioner.
Thank you. Also, you mentioned that there's opportunities for communities to get their grants are coming down from the IRA and other federal funding. So what's being done so that communities can apply to this process?
I think that goes back to what Lisa was saying.
So, yes, can you make sure Olivia and I have your contact information? Because we were actually going to contact New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance to figure out how to disseminate the information more, because we will be coming out soon, but we recognize that posting it on the website only gets to some people, and it's not translated in all these other languages. Anyway, so we're trying to figure out how we get the information out. So we would love to connect with you if possible.
Yeah, no, definitely,
Yeah,
for
okay.
sure.
Our time, so our time in this room is up, right?
Okay, but yeah, can we just
What's
make
that?
sure we have your, I mean.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, we're in touch with Melissa, but we would love to have
Yeah,
your.
for sure.
Yeah.
And just was saying 10.5 or $10.7 billion for an expansion of a turnpike seems a little bit too much for me when we have so many other issues that we could be using that money to fix, at least in Jersey City. Thank you.
I absolutely hear you. Let's have our last speaker right here. And thank you for your patience.
Hello, yes, thank you for accommodating me. My name is Chris Nowell. I actually live in Fort Lee, but I come down here often to Hudson County. I bike with Bike North Bergen and Bike JC. And I'm a volunteer with Food and Water Watch and a bunch of other organizations. But and so, as a cyclist, these heavy metal boxes that are moving all through the streets that we refer to as cars and trucks, have really concerned me. And that the turnpike expansion, reading through the EIS, I want to talk about the EIS a little bit. It's the proposals and the one that they really want to put forward just shows that these pretty large increases in cars moving through the region and then coming into Jersey City. Over 1,000 cars coming into Jersey City just from the eastbound roadway by 2050 compared to a no-build situation. It's in there. And
you mean through the streets of Jersey
Yes.
City? Okay.
Yes.
Not the turnpike.
Right.
Not the turnpike road itself. I just want to make sure I understood you.
Yeah. That's right. And so with that in mind, though, I wanted to think about then, well, I mean, the term induced demand didn't even appear in the environmental impact statement. So do these projections include induced demand? And if they don't, then, I mean, shouldn't they factor in induced demand that might bump up these projections even further? And then also, that the idea is that, like, we want people to come into these places. We want people to get in and out, to go to work, to live and to shop, but we don't really want more cars coming into these places. And so there is no alternative. There are 9, alternatives proposed. 2 of them is the no build, and then the one that they want, the 4 lanes each way. But how is it possible that there's not an alternative that includes a built, public transit built in, so dedicated bus lanes? That was suggested even by Senator Robert Menendez, and it was just seems that it was disregarded by the Turnpike Authority. And then, like, it seems like, so that should be something that should be required in the EIS, because I mean, that would help to reduce, so allow the people to move in and out without having so many extra cars coming in and out. Really quick, I noticed that so ozone is considered a serious non-attainment status in Hudson County, but there were no projections for ozone precursors, NOx and VOCs in the environmental impact statement or a projection for ozone. At least in the environmental impact statement itself, Appendix B, I can't find anywhere online that's supposed to cover air pollution. And then finally, in NGDP's comment to the Turnpike Authority's EIS, it said, this is a quote here, globally, the report does not factor in any analysis of whether specific EJ/overburden communities will be impacted from the proposed projects or how the 26 stressors included in EJ map will be impacted. So then I was wondering though, like, does the proposed project require any analysis of whether any specific EJ or overburden communities will be impacted? And if not, because we're talking about mobile sources of air pollution with all the vehicles, then what was the point of this statement being in there? And
When you say the statement being in there, do you mean in the EIS?
No, this was in DEP's kind of response letter. I think it was like in May in response.
Oh, for the DEIS. Is that what that is?
The
Is that
draft.
the draft?
The draft.
A comment on the draft?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
sorry, I just wanted to make sure I was
Okay,
making the right note.
Yeah. Okay, and then that's it.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you.
all right.
Thank you very much.
All right, I think that brings us through to the end of our session. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for your patience. We really enjoy getting to listen to all of you. And like I said earlier, the relationship between us three does not end tonight. You have, or you can get our contact information, and my team in the back will be able to connect you to all of the things that we talked about today and the resources and the grants. So please do follow up with us and continue to stay connected to the work that we're doing, because we want to stay connected to you. So Commissioner, last thoughts.
Everyone needs accountability partners, especially your government. And that means that we need you, and not just the government as represented in this room, but all of its parts. And I hope that the advocacy you all displayed in what, Candace, I think has been our longest engagement session on the tour, perhaps, or among one of them. Okay. I hope that the advocacy that you've brought here, you also bring elsewhere, and that you don't be discouraged, and that you do have hope. It is incumbent upon the government to offer people hope and to perform upon it, because the reason that we do engagement like this is not engagement for the sake of engagement, not check the box public comment. The point is to engage for the purpose of action. So we will follow up on the items that you've all raised, because that is why we do this. So thank you. Lisa?
Oh, thank you, everyone. Yeah, so I'll just reiterate that advocacy does matter and it does work. So continue the work. I'll just echo what the commissioner said. Continue to speak to everyone who you can about these issues. I know that we learned new issues today. And so it was great that some of you said we've been raising them for a few years. It was great that you raised it again, because now you have another entity listening and hearing these issues. So thank you so much for your time, for staying with us. You're thanking us for staying with us. We're thanking you for staying with us for so long. Really, it's wonderful that you decided to spend your evening with us and share a lot of your concerns and also possible solutions. So we look forward to continuing to work with you. And of course, thank you, Commissioner and Candace, for your work on all this. We really appreciate it.
And also,
Thanks.
this kind of stuff is great. Next time, put your name on it. I've got your name. But really good to have a leave
Oh,
behind
yeah.
like this. So thank you.
Follow-up comments. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Encourage the governor to do this law.
Please, please.
Okay, I think we've got it at the table, but yeah, if you don't mind.
So it's occurred on.
And I have your comment.